We will begin just a second as soon as our clerk returns. Again, my apologies. I wonder if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Schmidt.
Here.
Alderman Black.
Here.
Alderman Fazzini.
Here.
Alderman Fruin.
Here.
Alderman Lauer.
Here.
Alderman Sage.
Here.
Alderman Miller-Lamway.
Here.
Alderman Stearns.
Here.
Mayor Renner.
Here. Thank you very much. We're going to begin with our public comments, and we have two gentlemen who have filled out public comment cards. And the first is Charles Bow? I'm sorry. My apologies. Please come forward. And again, if you would please, for the record, state your name, your address, please.
Charles Valley, 601 Lutz Road in Bloomington. Your Honor, members of the City Council and City Manager, on September 12, 2005, Trinity Lutheran Church and Lutheran Life Services in Arlington Heights petitioned the Bloomington City Council for approval to construct Luther Oaks Senior Living Community. In 2005, the only current council member serving was Councilwoman Smith. Councilman Sage was serving on the Planning Commission. A copy of the minutes concerning the petition have been provided for your review. Most of the discussion centered on water supply and designated parkland. Tonight, I am calling your attention to the discussion addressed the need for improvements to Lutz Road. Out of all those pages, I've highlighted just a little bit. Excuse me. The Planning Commission public hearing, August 24, 2005. Following person submitted testimony, Mr. Frank Miles, attorney at law, Donovan Gardner, Lutheran Home Services, and Mr. Dave Fetter. Mr. Miles stated Trinity Lutheran Church had always planned to have this site for school, church-related services, and intergenerational housing. Commissioner Sage noted that the only access road is from Lutz Road. He inquired whether the petitioners were willing to proceed, knowing it may be years before will be improved. Mr. Miles assured that the petitioners are willing to proceed, although they would like to see the road improved soon. He noted that the church site and Wittenberg Woods track have already agreed to pay adjacent substandard road improvement fees. And I don't even know what that means, but anyway. Mr. Grovestein, Director of Engineering, stated, any improvement on Lutz is not in the 5-year budget. Chairperson Kane noted that the 5-year budget is reviewed annually and hoped that the recent significant changes in this area would now make it a high priority. Mr. Grovestein commented that it could be 4, 5, or 6 years before the road work is done. This was 2005. That would have been great if that calendar had been met. Commissioner Rakusa said she favored the project but is concerned about the road condition. She said the road should be improved first. Commissioner Sage agreed but commented that the community needs an assisted living facility. Commissioner Bond commented that it's not ideal, but acknowledged that it's realistic that the road will eventually be improved to, quote, catch up. Planning Commission recommendation, they voted 7-2 to approve the plan with a strong recommendation that when the next review of the 5-year capital budget is undertaken, that the relevant portions of South Morris Avenue and Lutz Road be included for the earliest possible construction.
I'm going to have to ask you to finish up because you're actually a minute over.
Okay, a couple more recommendations. They just talked about the access roads, and see if I can summarize it here. Okay, no, I'll just finish up there, so I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
And again, you can, welcome to come back.
Okay.
Thank you. Alton Franklin? Alton, you know the drill.
My name is Alton Franklin. I live at 508 Patterson Drive here in Bloomington. An old adage came to mind: those who do not learn from the mistakes of history are doomed to repeat them. I'll say that again, it bears repeating. Those who do not learn from the mistakes of the past are doomed to repeat them. Some years back, we had a great idea to have a coliseum. What a great economic draw it would be, and what a wonderful thing it would be to have for the city. We're still paying for that great idea. And I love how we twist and turn the financial semantics with it to say that we're breaking even, we're making money. No, we're spending $2 million a year that's not factored in. We just gave away another big chunk because it was on the books and it was never going to come off the books. Quite frankly, I abhor the idea of government getting into business, especially with regards to the impact on the local market, as Councilman Lauer, Alderman Lauer rightly brought up. They're talking about bringing in 5 more casinos. We don't need to gamble here again. We don't need to throw the financial dice and then reach in to the citizens' pockets to make up for the misjudgment in doing something like this that has no reasonable return projection, because if it were, there would be people out there with the money to do it. The idea that, folks, I love you to death. You're some of the smartest folks I know. But you ain't that smart, or you'd be out in the business world doing what the people at Marriott and what the people at Hilton, all those folks do for a living. They know what the rate of return is. They know what an investment will give back. If there were something to be done, they'd be doing it. By all means, I can see attracting, working with them, with permits, with green space alterations, whatever it takes, but the onus needs to be on the people who are going to make the money, if any money's made. If we put in a hotel and it does barnstormers, the citizens of this great city will not see 1 red cent. And quite frankly, I don't feel like laying my money on the line, and virtually every citizen that I've talked to feels the same way. $14 million is a hell of a gamble. It's more than it's right to place on the backs of the people. Once we get the pensions taken care of, might think about it. But until we get the deficiencies that we currently have off the books, folks, let's not throw the dice anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. We're moving ahead. We have a proclamation, February 10th, 2014, as Alex Wellman Day. Alex, would you please come forward? I want to go ahead and read the proclamation, and then I believe we're going to have a little bit of clarification about your situation. We're very, very happy to have you here. Declaring February 10th, 2014, Alex Wellman Day. Whereas Alex Wellman has shown an exceptional attitude, skill, determination while training and competing as a teen figure skater. Whereas at the age of 8, Alex began his training on ice while attending the Learn to Skate program provided by the City of Bloomington Parks and Recreation Department at the Pepsi Ice Center. Whereas as a member of the Central Illinois Figure Skating Club, Alex captured the silver medal in 2012 and again in 2013 while competing in the Upper Great Lakes Regional Competition. Whereas in the fall of 2013, Alex went on to earn first place while competing in the Midwestern Sectional Competition at the age of 13. This achievement earned Alex a spot in the U.S. Figure Skating National Championship held on January 10, 2014 in Boston, Massachusetts. Whereas while competing in the U.S. Figure Skating National Championship, Alex placed 10th, an achievement that propelled him among teen skating elite across the United States. Now, therefore, I, Terry Renner, Mayor of the City of Bloomington, do hereby proclaim Monday, February 10th, 2014 to be Alex Wellman Day and urge all citizens of Bloomington to honor this day. If you, I think you wanted to mention something, but as I want to talk a little bit about, very briefly, the program, and then in any of your family or others who want to come up as he receives the proclamation, you're welcome to come up and take pictures. So anyone come on up. Come on. You can come on up. It's your city hall. Come on. It's okay. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Alex, go ahead.
Alex, we want you to come up here, please. Yeah, thank you. And then you're going to give us a little bit of background information?
Alex started skating, as you said, in the age of 8 at Pepsi Ice Center's Learn to Skate program. Not only Alex, many of our skaters that are also accomplished started skating their skating dream with that program. So we just wanted to thank all of you for your support for the figure skating program that is offered to the City of Bloomington and Department of Park and Recreations. Thank you all for giving us this chance to express our appreciations. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex, congratulations. Thank you. Madeline, great to see you. Thank you.
I'm Lena Jalbri, president of Central Illinois Figure Skating Club.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Lena, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alex. And keep doing us proud, Alex. Yeah. Great. We have another cause for celebration, a presentation of a Sunshine Award from the Illinois Policy Institute by Brian Costin, Director of Government Reform. And Brian, please come forward. Thank you. I didn't realize how well known you were, Brian, throughout the state. I mentioned your name, and they said, oh, yeah, we know Brian. And let me turn it over to you, Brian, from the Illinois Policy Institute.
I had no idea. Like Mayor Renner said, my name is Brian Costin. I'm the Director of Government Reform at the Illinois Policy Institute. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and part of our mission is to help local governments like the City of Bloomington to become more transparent. I started working there in 2010, and we started a project then called the Local Transparency Project. And what we've done is we've created a 10-point transparency checklist as a best practice standards for local governments to adopt. And with that, we've gone out and we've audited over 300 local government websites in the state of Illinois. And we have a Sunshine Award reserved for those who do exceptionally well. The categories in that 10-point transparency checklist include things such as having contact information for elected officials and administrators, having information about board meetings such as tonight's, FOIA information, Freedom of Information Act, information about budgets and audits, employee compensation, contracts, expenditures, lobbying, and taxes. And I'm proud to be here tonight, not only am I here to give this Sunshine Award, but also I went to college down the road at Illinois State University, so it's a little bit of personal pride in being able to come here tonight. A little bit on what the city of Bloomington has done. Obviously, they've qualified for our Sunshine Award, one of only 53 organizations across the state of Illinois to do so. And to put that in perspective, there's close to 7,000 local government agencies in the state of Illinois, so you're talking about a very limited number. But even going further than that, as far as government agencies not in the Chicago metropolitan area, the city of Bloomington actually has the highest score in the state of Illinois when it comes to online transparency. So we think this is a great thing. Obviously, we're doing this for a number of reasons. One is to fight the corruption problem and image that the state of Illinois has. It's going to restore some of that trust in government. We also do it to help increase public participation in local government. And we think that the city of Bloomington is doing an excellent job on both of these fronts. So I'd like to thank Mayor Renner. I'd like to thank Mr. Hayes, Tracy Covert, and Catherine Boydos. I don't know if she's...
Katie, but she's not here, but we will definitely
and
pass that along.
Others as well all helped in this accomplishment, and I'm very proud to present the Sunshine Award on behalf of the Illinois...
Thank you very much.
We're going to have Alex here take a picture.
Oh, okay. Oh, we got it. Thanks. That's a roll. She's taking it.
While the picture's being taken, again, Katie Bidos of my staff, I asked her if she could work with Brian and other members of the city staff to see how we could raise our score. She worked with Craig Macbeth, Tracy Covert, members of HR, Finance, so it really was a team effort, and we're still working on trying to get some additional points, even push that score, well up into the 90s. So, and that's just been over the last couple of months. So,
I think we went from
we also
50.7
had Brian
now.
here early this afternoon, put on a little work session for some city staff. Talked about not only where we are now, but where we're going. And Brian, would you also just mention that state statute or that bill that is being you're promoting here, and the chances of that passing and becoming actually a state law for all municipalities to follow?
Absolutely. There is a bill that was, there's a bill from last year. The new bill is in the process of being introduced, but the last year's bill number, which is going to be very similar in text to this year, is HB 3312. And what that bill would do is, number one, require governments over a certain size to have a website. Believe it or not, there's a lot of governments in Illinois that still don't have websites. But it would also require them to have all the information that we're asking for in our 10-point transparency checklist going forward. Actually, the standards that the city of Bloomington has proactively done go beyond in regards to the time requirements. They go back 5 years in many cases, in some cases even more than 5 years. And additionally, it would require things such as having your ordinances online, process to apply for building permits or zoning variances, debt disclosure information, a searchable expenditure and revenue database. And if this bill passes, which we think it has a very good chance, passed unanimously out of committee last year, but the timeline ran out, the clock ran out, so to speak. We think it has a pretty good chance this year. So the city of Bloomington is already, if this bill passes, well on its way to meeting the requirements underneath this potentially new state law.
Great. Well, thank you. Welcome back, Brian. And again, we hope to see you again. Thanks for all you're doing for transparency and improving public trust. Thank you. Oops. Actually, I just want to say this is, anybody want to come up and look at it after, it's pretty cool. Moving right along to our consent agenda. Under items 7A through F, are there any items that anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda for separate discussion or questions? Alderman Fazzini? Excuse me, Alderman Fruin.
Mayor, what are we doing with 7A? Are we going to vote on that? Are we going to remove that? Are we talking about different sets of minutes?
These are
it's not
special
executive session.
city council minutes.
Yeah,
These
these
are
are
not
not-
closed meeting minutes, so.
Okay, it looked like there was a mix there, so.
Some work session, proceedings, and special session.
Right, yeah, this
No
is not
closed.
the executive session we will be returning to later this month, and then we'll vote presumably to release them by early March. Thank you. Thanks.
I'd make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second? Second by Alderman Miller-Wambwe. Any discussion? Alderman Fruin.
Mayor, just my comment that with both the consent and regular agenda items, I have not received any financial benefits from any of the organizations or individuals in these agenda items.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? Oh, that's right. Gosh, how many months of this? I am educated. It just takes a while. Okay. All right. No. No. All right. I'm not sure why it's not showing. Not up here. Got technical difficulties here, but just let the record show that we have everyone, there it is. Everyone voting aye, 8-0. But it's not on that one. Okay. Well, we're getting there. And here I thought it was just me. All right. Here we go. Thank you. Moving right along, we have item 8A under our regular agenda. Selection of the Stone River Group for professional services to obtain electricity and natural gas pricing for a 2-year period. We have 15 minutes budgeted for this discussion. Let's start out by seeing if I've got an motion to approve in a second.
I'll make a motion we approve as presented.
Moved by Alderman Black. Is there a second?
I'd second that.
Second by Alderman Fazzini. Discussion. If I see who would like to speak. Alderman Stearns.
Thank you. I was just interested in a little bit more background information. I wasn't able to send in questions because my computer connection was not up today. I'm curious to know, I understand Normal selected this consultant, I guess we can call them. What has Normal's cost savings been? Do we have any idea what we're going to be looking at here in terms of cost savings, which does seem to be the goal here?
Well, let me have Mark Huber, our PACE director, come forward, but I think as you saw here, it's my understanding Normal has just recently engaged Stone River Group. And I would draw your attention to the staff backup report because we are showing we are showing what we have been paying for electricity. That's been about 5 cents per kilowatt hour. But you might recall we also showed that for the municipal aggregation, we're already at 0.045. So even through the recent bidding of municipal aggregation, these are for small users. We're seeing the costs have been lower. We hope by working with Stone River, because we are a large user in consumer electricity and natural gas, we hope to even get what we're paying lower than that. And Mark, anything else you would like to add?
Actually, the specifics I can't really give you at this point, but I do have Don Frontone from Stone River Group is here, and I'm sure he'd be more than willing to try and answer your questions on specifics.
Okay, but Normal is only fairly recent. Do you happen to know offhand how long ago they contracted with them?
I want to say it was in the last several months.
Several months, I see. Yeah. Okay, so there may not be a track record yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Any interest in having the representative come up?
Well, I'm curious to know
Okay.
what other cities are realizing
Please,
with the.
come forward.
I assume they are selecting a supplier. I assume they're brokering this. Maybe I'm wrong, but.
Yeah, I've been working with Normal for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know, the first time it was about $260,000 in savings. The next time, projected over the 3-year term. This last time is about 140,000. I don't have the numbers exactly. I'm just giving you close to the savings that we had seen. And that was in negotiating new rates. So overall, we've had a pretty significant savings for them over the period that I've worked with them. There's no magic to that. All it is going out and I work with about 16 companies. I don't send out that many bids. We usually send out about 6 or 7 bids out to companies, get those back, and then make them competitively bid for your power. And I talked about municipal aggregation. I do that work as well, and we just recently got 424 for a small community in Athens, Illinois. It's like 800 folks there, so we were able to get a real low rate. But we have a large portfolio, so we leverage that when we do our bidding. But the town of Normal, been wanting to work with Bloomington because I have worked with Normal, live in Lincoln, and we work with about 20 cities. And I have Hayworth and Lexington local that are small towns I work with, and then a lot of other towns as well. I have a list if you want it.
Mm-hmm. And do you lock in a rate over a year? Over what time period?
Well, things are changing a little bit. Right now, I wouldn't want to go a year rate because year rates are actually high, which is unusual. We've never had it this way. Normally, they've been lower, and then it gets higher as you go out. It's just the opposite now. So the longer term rates are actually a 3-year rate could be lower than a 1-year rate. And we've never seen that before. But we had a cold summer. We've had some changes in transmission costs and capacity costs. And so there's some real benefits right now to go maybe long term. But I wouldn't do any bidding right this week or next week. I would probably wait till we see this unusual weather clear up and see where the gas market goes, and then look at it.
Right, because you're dealing with a commodity in essence.
Exactly.
And that can be very volatile.
Yeah.
Last thing would be your company, Stone River Group, is going to find the supplier. Could be home field, could be.
Yeah,
we don't know. Okay.
We'll set it out to about 6 or 7 suppliers and have them bid.
And do you work for a flat fee then, or is there
yes.
an
yeah,
amount
it was all
per therm that comes?
The contract information.
So it's not per therm kind of pricing.
It is,
okay.
But it's paid by the supplier.
I see. Okay.
So the city doesn't pay me anything.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions? Alderman Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Stearns, I just wanted to note that on the county board, when I was on that organization, we did something very similar, and staff came to us with a presentation, not with this firm, but with one very similar, and threw us some projections about numbers, and we actually saved more money than staff had projected for very similar type projects. So there's money to be saved.
Okay. All right. Anything else to add, Mark? Okay. Any other questions? Then I think, why don't we go ahead and vote? Oh, excuse me. Oh, yes, we do. Have a motion and second. Yeah. All right. Should be. Okay. Okay. The motion is passes 8-0. No nays to announce, Madam Clerk. All right. We'll go and ask our distinguished police chief to come forward under item 8B. We have 2013 crime statistics, police strategic plan update, and 2014 initiatives by Brendan Hefner. Come on forward. And we have approximately, for the whole presentation and question answers, we have about 60 minutes budgeted. So pretty much this is the rest of our evening until we get to city manager, mayor's discussion, alderman's remarks. So hit it. Chief.
Good evening, and hope it won't take too long. Good evening. Certainly not 60 minutes. I'm just going to present to you an update to our strategic plan. Running from 2012 to 2015, and some of our new initiatives. Our plan, as you saw, has 5 broad goals and focused on 69 individual department goals. And as of the first of this year, January 1st, all projects are either complete or underway. We formed an internal technology committee We had lost some technology staff, so we formed a committee which helps us address areas such as digital storage, anything that deals with technology as it relates to police work, not only in how we might store some digital evidence because, old evidence sometimes can deteriorate, so we have to plan for the future, and also any other problems that we might foresee going forward. Launched all social media platforms. So now we have Facebook, um, Google, we even have Twitter on an experimental basis. We have our website. All of this information is going to help us better communicate with citizens and help us get information out. Expanded the public safety camera system, so it is now in the dispatch center. They actually have 4 monitors now, right now, that are focused on downtown, where if there's an event going on, the supervisor working or dispatchers themselves can immediately look at the monitor for information, which can help us assess the situation as we dispatch officers to the area. And we finalized the range study. We currently are in the process of getting the roof fixed out at the range so we can utilize our indoor range again, and looking at some other things out there with the clubhouse. But that's very important, getting the indoor range fixed, because regardless of the weather, we can go out and shoot. It's also going to aid us in having more qualifications than what we normally do. Now I'll review the 2013 crime statistics. This is information that the FBI extrapolates out of reports that we send in, that we actually make, and this is for the calendar year. I think the information you all received is slightly off, as I release this information to officers. As it is, sometimes cases change, so we have to recode things. So just a slight increase, just a little off from what you had originally. We'll be looking at homicides, forcible rapes, robbery, ag assaults and batteries, burglary, theft, motor vehicle theft, and arson. We'll look at each category. With the homicides, I think you'll kind of see here as I go through, we are pretty much on a 5-year average with many of these categories. There might be some spikes, but overall, for the last 5 years, we stayed the same. There were 2 recorded homicides. As you see up there, the shooting death of Aaron Robinson in May, suspect arrested, and the shooting death of Mr. Massey last January. That was one where there was a change, as that was a manslaughter charge at first, and then it was changed. Now, some people also wonder about the Haley Icorn investigation. That originated while it happened, or she was found in the county. She was originally listed as a missing person in Bloomington. So that's why we are actively working that investigation. And once we find somebody, I'll try to make sure that the county doesn't try to take credit for it, since they're not working it right now. Sex assaults, as you see, they've kind of went up, 38% increase from the 42 reported in 2012. We added a second detective in 2013 to assist in investigating sex crimes. And while you'll see a couple of these slides where you see we added personnel to do that, I don't want you to think that because it went up, nobody else was doing anything before. But anytime you can have more eyes on something and you can follow up a little better, sometimes you get cases from within cases. And unfortunately, they're all serious crimes, and even with these numbers, it's still an underreported crime. But we have 2 detectives actively working it. They do great follow-up, and sometimes from the follow-ups, we get cases from that. So we know that contributed to the spike there. And if you have questions, please feel free.
Mayor, you have
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Mayor,
Jim?
would you prefer we
Alderman
ask
Fu.
questions as we go or wait till the end?
If you have questions that you'd like to ask at the point, then I think we're fine.
Just a very small point. I think
Go
this
back?
is... No, you're fine.
Oh.
A very small point, and I think it applies to several things, but sometimes when we report these things, and they're very small numbers, that sometimes I think there's a public misinterpretation of some of the percentage increases. And so I think I use this as an example. We're talking about a 38% increase over 2012 on the sexual assaults.
Yes.
But I'm just adding up my numbers here real quick, 12, 14. But if you look at the 5-year history, it's not a significant 38% jump.
Yes.
And so what are the headlines going to be? 38% increase, or is it going to be compared to a 5-year history? I know what you have to do here, but
Yes. We look at it as a 5-year history.
Yeah.
And this is unfortunately something that's a crime, patrolling or other measures can't do it. We address that through some of the agencies and through education. And like I said, some of these, you can interview a victim and actually get information for other cases. So I would look at it as a 5-year history.
I'm glad to hear that. And I think sometimes when we look at 4 compared to 2 and 2 compared to 1, it just kind of distorts the numbers. So
Absolutely.
Just a comment.
I think that's a really good point, because essentially if you just take a look at those 5 years, it's just noise in the data over the last 5 years that are, that have random fluctuations. But thank you. Go ahead, Chief.
The robberies, this is another one where you will see a 31% increase from 45 cases reported in 2012. Even with that, we are below, I only have 5 years up here, we are below the 10-year average of 75. But as you remember, we had quite a spike in robberies last year. The suspects were eventually apprehended, and really, after August, after they were taken into custody, we had a big reduction. But we do attribute that to the spike.
Mayor?
Sir.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Just curious, Chief, we caught those and then it went down substantially. But these are just reported cases, not ones where we did or didn't catch people. Is that right?
Yes.
That just total?
Yes.
Yeah, it'd probably be useful to know how many times we did catch people versus how many times we didn't in the future.
Yeah, okay, so you want to know how many, okay.
Because, it went down for a reason. We caught the group that was doing it.
Yes.
And I think that's significant to know that they don't all go uncaught.
That would be true. We catch quite a few of them.
And it'd be good to know that, Chief. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Black.
No worries. So I'm curious too, as we look through this data, do you have any, you may not have this at your fingertips, kind of seeing the trends either at the state level or the national level for these types of crimes, how we're comparing in terms of, I know we're looking at very small numbers here, but even in terms of percents?
Yeah, I don't have that information right now, but I can certainly gather that and put that in our report that we're going to have.
Thank you.
The other end of the year report.
But basically all of this, over 5 years, we're mostly flat on this stuff. There's a little bit of noise in this data. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Continue. Sorry.
We had a 1% increase here in the ag assault and batteries, and that probably would not have been an increase at all, but some of the people who were charged with robberies were also charged with the batteries, so the two kind of go together, people receiving multiple charges. Burglaries. This will include both residential and commercial burglaries, and it does make a difference because in discussing this, and I would be remiss, I have Assistant Chief Wheeler here with me, and also criminal intelligence analyst Carl Fever, who helped put this information, and I get some of the history, of course, from Assistant Chief Wheeler, but as I learned that things have changed, they are coding, when I'm talking about coding and charging, a lot of these burglaries, which you might look at before as retail thefts. But by law, when a person goes in a dwelling with the intent to steal, it is actually burglary. And we do have people who go in with extra bags and things of this nature who go out with the intent to steal. So depending on the information gathered, depending on the evidence, a person can be charged with retail theft or burglary.
But again, here, you can say that, of course, it went up 13% since last year, but we're still the second lowest year out of the last 5.
Yes.
So essentially, we're considerably lower than we were in, well, not considerably, we're lower than we were in 09, 2010, 2011. We dipped and then came back. Again, that's why I think the 5-year trend is helpful here.
Yes. Well, I would really like the trend to be 0, but I don't think that'll be possible. But that's what we always try to work towards. Once again, with the thefts, we had a 3% increase. And this, like I said, these UCR reports that the FBI gathers, they put a lot of different cases together: burglary from motor vehicle, retail theft, purse snatching, theft over 500, etc. So we had a 3% increase. One big cause for this spike, as you will see, if you remember in December, anybody paying attention to the news or information we were putting out, there was a large rash of vehicle burglaries. Those suspects were caught also with a multi-effort from Bloomington PD working with Normal also and the county. All of us working together, but small increase, but that probably caused that just that 1 month of December. %20 increase from 2012, and once again attributed to what occurred in December. And I'll be quite honest with you, sorry, it went too fast. A lot of these, unfortunately, were attributed to people going to burglarize vehicles and finding keys in them. So we had some people who were out with the intent of just burglarizing a vehicle, looking for money or other items in there that they could pawn or use or whatever. And lo and behold, they're finding keys in glove boxes, under seats, in visors. So what turned out to be a burglary, just a burglary, ended up being a motor vehicle theft. A lot of them were just driven a certain amount of time and dumped, but it caused, once again, a big spike. Arsons, a big drop. I can honestly tell you, I have no idea. That's a different breed. My colleague, Chief Kimmerling, tells me, no, we're way below the average. So that's a good thing. DUIs for 2013. As you will see, that one of our goals, strategy 3, and you do see a spike there. It's the kind of spike that we like. We went from 169 to 246. And speaking with Assistant Chief Wheeler and talking to some of my other coworkers over there, what basically happened is we got some people some additional training in DUIs. Unless you've done one before, it can be a cumbersome type of arrest. I think we've all probably dealt with somebody intoxicated, so you can imagine how they are when they're in custody and you're trying to ask them questions and go through the whole process. Officers received additional training. We assigned more officers downtown during certain times, and quite frankly, they just took more pride, from what I can tell, in removing more impaired drivers. You see that 246 was the most since 2002, where there was 249. That was the record, and I would probably look for that to fall this year, I would hope. But they're out there, and we're going to actively enforce this. We are going to be removing impaired drivers when we can. And if the number goes down, it won't be because we aren't out enforcing it. It's because people are getting the message.
Chief, could you review, if somebody's done this, a DUI once, what the penalty is to that person, and if they do it twice, what's the penalty, and if they do it more than twice? Just to give me an idea of when do they go to jail?
That can change. That can change when a person's arrested, if they've damaged vehicles, obviously, or if they've hurt a person. Um, they can go to jail immediately. Most people, their first time, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they're going to get probably suspended, and they'll get their license back. The second time, they can possibly look at county. But generally, it takes multiple arrests, and depending on the circumstances, before people are actually going to jail. If you're asking me if there are some repeat offenders we would like to go to jail, absolutely, but we can only get them there.
Is there any chance that the laws will be strengthened so that we can take their license away quicker or put them in jail quicker? I just have no tolerance for this, I guess.
I understand. I think the laws are pretty strong.
Are
It
they?
just depends on what happens in court. I think we have some,
judges.
yes. You
Okay.
said that, sir. Judge is mad at us, but no, we get them there and we work well with them. But people have their rights. They have attorneys and they go through the process. And there are some that we would definitely like to go to jail that are still out there.
Thank you, Chief.
One thing too, I'd like, going off of Alderman Fazzini's comment, it'd be interesting for next year to see this parsed out of how many are those the first time, the second time, and multiple DUIs. Is that possible to look at that kind of data?
I don't know. Carl is the one who extrapolates data for us. We would probably have to run criminal histories on all of these people as they come in.
It'd be good to see that downward trend.
Yeah.
Sure. It would be good to see, because, looking on the high level, it's good to see the number go up, but it'd be also good to see the multiple offenders go down. Right?
That's something that'd be easier to get if you were on the County Board's Justice Committee than it would be here, I suspect, but...
No, thank you. Thank you.
Continue, Chief.
This is probably some information you have not been privy to before. It's our digital forensic cases. We have 3 detectives assigned to that, and we're also part of a federal task force. And what they are doing is reviewing information from digital devices, be it phone, cameras, computers. I think if you read the paper here recently, there was a subject arrested in Shinoa for possession of child pornography. That was part of the task force for which we are in. Like I said, we have 3 officers, our detectives assigned, and I think what you don't really see is that you see the cases going up, but obviously as criminals use more digital media, our cases are going to go up. But to give you an idea, as you see right there, analysis of each digital device takes approximately 80 hours. Well, one case, that's 1 hard drive. It's not uncommon to find people with a phone, computer, 2 computers. So if you do the numbers, you can see it is very, very labor intensive. However, it is well worth it. Well worth it.
Chief, if I can ask one question, I know I made a note on some recent documents, but we're very fortunate to have 3 full-time officers devoted to our cybercrime unit, but the benefit is regional. Is there benefit from that unit from some of the other jurisdictions that maybe just don't have the personnel, don't have the expertise and further, is this maybe an area, rather than each jurisdiction have its own, own cybercrime unit, if there is kind of a regional core here in Bloomington, maybe we can also look to these other jurisdictions to help financing our operation, especially if they just don't have the funding to kind of help and where we're providing a lot of assistance to them.
That would be correct. I was going to touch on that. We do cases. We get requests from all the agencies around here. There are agencies who will do, if you will, a cell phone dump, but this unit is going far beyond that. And like I said, we're working with the federal task force, but say, Leroy PD or Hayworth PD, when they get phones or other devices, they're just bringing them to us, cameras, computers, and sometimes you get a backlog because that's a lot of work being done. But we have talked about that because it is very expensive to keep these detectives trained.
they maintain certifications that we have to send them to, but we think it's that important.
Continue.
The gang crimes, we did see a marked decrease in frequent gang-motivated incidents. And what I mean by motivated incidents is that we basically kind of look at them, you know, you're always going to have the batteries, obviously drugs, we know gangs are involved in that, but they also have turf wars, and through that, beefs with each other. Well, shooting incidents, gang-motivated shooting incidents. In 2012, it's not on there, we went from 12 to 2013, we're down to 5. And part of that reason is because of the successful prosecution of cases involving the arrest of 8 gang subjects from 2 gangs. And I think one good thing, not a good thing, but one thing to point out on here is that while our west side gets attention, and I get asked about that a lot, you saw where these shootings occurred. They were on the east side. So as I talked to people, I talked to pastors and different groups and everything, and part of our plan as far as what we'll be doing moving ahead, we're going to be everywhere because we know different things can occur in different places. So we have to be ready to respond there. But as you see, we have had a great reduction in the gang-related shootings.
Oh, sorry. Alderman Stearns.
Thanks. You know, Chief, I've seen maps in the past, crime maps showing where the activity is. And I know this isn't the purpose tonight, but are those maps available in terms of the intensity level in certain, I'm sure they are, Carl.
Yes.
Oh, it's online, right. And is it by neighborhood or certain blocks or is it just pinpointed actually?
It pinpoints to the
Okay.
specific address.
Okay. And I don't spend a lot of time on the city's website, but that's what you're talking about, isn't it? Or is there another site? There's another.
Raids online. All of the crimes that we've been discussing tonight
Okay.
are mapped out on that website. All the shootings, the DUIs, the batteries.
And that's on the city's website under crimes?
Under the police.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me of that. Thank you.
Mayor, if I could, I think one thing that ties back to what Alderwoman Stearns has brought up is, I think 3-4 years ago, the police department had focus areas. And what we had is maps showing where the reported incidents call volume was. It might be helpful to kind of show the before and after, because I think a great success story is after that 1 or 2 years of very aggressive patrolling in the downtown focus areas, that we saw great positive response from a lot of the people downtown, to see the incidence of a crime drop. So you might want to consider, again, showing that before and after, going back to some of those maps we use when there was that initiative, in the downtown, which is a little different from maybe some of the raids online. But we can talk about that a little bit more later.
Sure.
Yeah, another comment on that subject. Didn't we have a large area for crime on Todd Avenue, Todd Drive? And we assigned one officer to work with people there, and I think we had really good success, I think, based on that. Is that, yeah. More than one. More, couple, okay. Yeah, and that kind of thing goes right along with that. When we concentrate on something, it has really positive effects, and it's nice to highlight that.
That would be correct. We assign people to the areas and probably getting into what I talk about later, but keeping that communication going because, we can respond, but we would really like to deter it. And that's a two-way street as far as communicating from people who live in these areas to us responding. That can help greatly in reducing crime.
Well, the meetings that you have where any citizens can come in, I think those are really helpful because the citizens who have a particular problem can come to those meetings, talk to you, And I think as a result of that, we end up putting a little emphasis somewhere and seeing the results. So
Yes,
keep doing the meetings.
absolutely.
Continue, thanks.
Talk about our priorities. The street level violent crimes. We will still be patrolling and using other assets in order to keep that down as much as we can. We had the robberies, we had the other things, and we responded to those, but also we had to come up with different strategies in order to catch the perpetrators, but we will still emphasize that and make that a priority. Illegal gun possession. Obviously, there are going to be more guns out as we slowly get through concealed carry. We will be enforcing the law as it is. The state is still dragging his feet. Nobody has any of the cards yet, but we do know there are a lot of people training, and we also know that there are people out there that feel that they should have a gun anyway. So we will stay up on that. At this time, I think we have a little in excess of 300 applications that we have reviewed, and we have had, 12 objections. What that means is that someone hasn't applied for a concealed carry. The state lets us know. In the city of Bloomington, Carl's group, along with his supervisor, Jack McQueen, they will look at it, review it, and if we have any local information that we feel should disqualify this person, we will send that objection in, but the final say is the state, and they have a board that will review it. So like I said, we're a little excess of 300 plus that have been reviewed, and we've sent in 12 objections. Intervention in West Side youth issues. We will still be active going over there. One of our goals, one of our priorities will also be communicating. I've met with some churches. I've met with people from the Boys and Girls Club. Everywhere I go, we have an emphasis now with our officers in regard to communicating with people and why we're there. I think it's really good for youth to see us, not only just the West Side, but other places where we work, to know that we're human and that every time we show up, it's just not trouble. I went to my son's game tonight prior to coming here, and some lady had her young child there and said, "Uh-oh, you're in trouble." We don't want that. If I show up, I'm here to help, or any of our other officers. But when we're showing up in areas where there's crime, if we establish some type of communication, it doesn't matter how many you can help. We will do all we can, but when people also understand why you're there and the purpose of being there, it goes a long way. And I know this initiative started before, early on, when I was looking at the strategic plan. I think maybe we've gotten away from it a little bit, and we will go back to it and be staunch in that.
If I could raise, I think it's not only West Side youth issues, but it's also has to do with, I think, people's perception or feeling safe in the neighborhood. And I know those who have been involved in some recent West Side meetings, there is still an ongoing serious concern by many of these homeowners about that either sense of the fear or not feeling as safe in their neighborhoods. And we are going to, as the chief and his people are going to be putting together kind of a plan of action. We're going to be meeting with many of the West Side neighborhoods, homeowners and others, inviting them to come. And I know even recently I was sharing with the chief in many cities where we're having these ongoing challenges. Sometimes we look at even trying to get some of these younger officers to maybe to live and to maybe look at housing in some of these areas. That's unfortunately not what we have in some of these areas on the West Side, is police living there, but we find them in many other areas of the community. So this West Side initiative, I think, is not only youth, it's crime, the fear of crime, people feeling unsafe, and a lot of it does, come back to youth issues. But I just want to emphasize this is going to be, again, another focus area or priority for the police department. And we're working on trying to have a West Side meeting in April, I believe it is, and inviting people to come and to hear from the police department and also how they can participate and collaborate with the police this coming summer.
Alderman Miller-Wampoy.
Oh, okay. Well, what David brought up made me think of something in other cities. I've seen programs where they have police officers actually living in certain areas that are troubled. Um, let's say I'm thinking about, for example, town of Normal in I think it's Lincoln Square Apartments in North Normal, where they had police officers living in that area. They offered housing to those individuals in order for them to at least make the area a little bit calmer. Is that something that
We do have some officers in some areas now. We had an officer move out of an area, but I can't make them live there. Some of them get married and, move on. But yes, we do that, and we'll be offering that up as, we have had a couple of new officers come on. But yes, we do that.
I remember in the days when I was at the International City Management Association, that was pretty common that cities would actually buy a couple of homes, and in places that didn't, in places where the property values weren't terribly high, with higher crime areas, and would have police officers live there for a 6-month or a year period of time, or perhaps even longer.
Yeah, we've had some officers for some years living in certain areas, and we'll be trying to turn that over. But like I said, it kind of depends on the person, and like I said, I can't make them live there.
Right, right. Anyway.
But as a city, we can offer some housing incentives, and that's something we're going to look at,
Yes,
see if we can make it more attractive, maybe even for some single officers to live over on the west side.
Great. Okay, continue then. Thanks.
Gang crimes will always be a priority. Unfortunately, as you saw another slide, when people get sentenced and go away, eventually they come out, or we have some who don't get long sentences and they come back. So, unfortunately, the recidivism is kind of high. So it's always going to be a priority. We hope to have no shootings, and hopefully we can keep that low, but we'll be visible. Robberies, obviously. We don't want people being robbed. That will be a priority. Narcotics. I know, I believe somebody told me at your open house the other day, someone inquired about heroin.
Right, that's correct.
Yes, there is heroin here. There's heroin everywhere in all communities. Heroin kind of evolves. It's kind of cyclical. Sometimes heroin gets out there. I know some years ago there's some heroin out there and people were using a lot. And some bad heroin came out and killed some people and cut it off. But it's kind of cyclical. But yes, we have it. The heroin that's out now here and just like some other places, it's pretty attractive because you can buy it for less than cocaine.
Well, thank you for preempting that. That was my actual only question coming from the open house. Thank you.
So yes, it is here. I would tell you though, just be thankful because I work in some other areas and that we don't have the meth issue. That is much harder and personnel intensive and costly for us to deal with. So, but we are still very mindful of it and always ask about it. Sex offender violations. It was in the pantograph. There's a small part. We do an excellent job in this from what I've seen because we had an officer, Sean Albert, get appointed to a board, a state board, because of the work he does. He was also instrumental in locating a girl who was living with a sex offender who was here from California. We will always continue to keep working on this, but it says a lot for some of our officers to be appointed to a state board regarding this, and he is a go-to person in regards to sex offender tracking and monitoring. Burglaries, same as robberies and some of the other ones. They will always be a priority. Hopefully sometimes we can get out and get ahead of it and, through education, just like we were talking about some of the thefts from the stores. We have a public information officer and they put on information to all consumers who want it or business owners because business owners can help cut down on this also.
Chief, before you leave there, one other crime, if you would comment on, is domestic violence. I think we've reported there was 2,042 reports of domestic violence-related incidents last year, and one reason, twofold. You know, one, it certainly has a terrible impact on the members of the household, the family, things of that, but also domestic violence and these incidents is one of the highest risks for our officers, here and across the nation. Can you just comment on, where is that trend on domestic violence? And with over 2,042, do you see anything else from what we can do or community collaborators, things like that? Is that too high, about average over the last 5 years? Shed a little light on your just views of those.
Well, our numbers went up in that. However, with domestic violence, unfortunately, even with those numbers, that's one that's underreported. And you are correct in that many officers, crashes and domestic violence cause a lot of officer injuries and deaths. It is very serious and it does affect the home. However, that is something that we always respond to. Last year, we added another detective to the domestic violence unit, and just like the sex crimes, through more interviews, talking with victims and other things, we get more cases. And we work very closely with the domestic violence advocate and work very closely with the agencies, and they are very diligent in what they do. And sometimes when a person is going through something, they're only report one incident. Well, through good interviews and follow-up, they develop other cases. So that is greatly attributed to the numbers and to that increase. I don't know if there's anything besides education and working with the agencies that we can control in regards to domestic violence. It's just sad.
Okay. Are you on your last slide then? Are we general questions? Can we open this up? Was that it? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Last one.
I was on the wrong. Excuse me.
Lexipol policy project. What we are currently doing right now, Lexipol is a standard, police standards, best practices and policies that is recognized throughout the U.S. And what we're in the process doing is comparing what Bloomington has been doing and what we currently do to those with Lexipol. It is a very long process because sometimes, for example, the pursuit policy, I think Assistant Chief Wheeler, 3 hours we spent reviewing that because there's certain things, even with the best practices and policies, we kind of have to make it fit what Bloomington does and make the two mesh without totally going against the Lexipol. So we're going policy by policy, meeting regularly to get through that, and our goal is to be finished with that by the end of this year. There's 500 pages in Lexipol. So we are looking through each one. And when we finish with that, we will have to send it to the legal department to be reviewed. We will have to let the union review it and the officers. And then after that, will we be able to actually switch over to the different policies that we have either tweaked, maintained, or totally changed. But like I said, this will put us, in line with best practices nationwide. And I will tell you that most of them are. We've had to make some tweaks, but we're doing due diligence and going through them. I already told you about the range as far as what we're doing with the new roof. We will continue, obviously, the emphasis on DUI suppression. Continue with the social media. One way that we're using Twitter, right now we get videos, say from a armed robbery from a gas station, and we put that on the website. Well, obviously, the only way you can see that is by going to the website. Well, what we're trying to get people to do and encourage them is to go to the website and start following us on Twitter, because then you don't have to go to the website. We will get you that information. We firmly believe that the more information we get out in a timely manner, that will greatly assist us in following up on some of these crimes as they occur. Office of Professional Standards, we've established that again. We currently have one investigator in there. My goal is to have two. This is kind of broad because it's not just investigating internal complaints or internal investigations and citizen complaints. They will also be responsible for keeping the policies up to date and looking at that to make sure we're all in accordance. Because when you start looking at things, most of your litigation comes from lack of training, okay? And lack of training, violation of policies. And then not responding to complaints. And we need to do that all the time. We need to be more timely in our response to citizens, whether they're going to like the response or not. People need to know something in a more timely manner, and that is our goal to do that. We're going to be acquiring some software here within the next couple months, some things we've been looking at like other departments that will help us keep all of this up to date. I think I talked to you before about communicating, and I call it citizen service instead of customer service because of what we do. I don't look at the citizens as customers as far as for law enforcement, but just communicating better what we do and why we do it. That doesn't mean everybody will be happy, but we just can't tell you all the time, just do it just because. People deserve, I would say, a brief explanation. I don't want our officers standing out there having any officer safety issues, giving somebody a dissertation about why they're doing something. But we're going to do a better job of communicating. And from what I see, a lot of people are. And I know, everybody's not going to be happy and they won't like what you're doing, but we're moving towards that. We're evaluating our hiring process right now. We're looking at some other agencies to try to see what we can do to make our improve our hiring process. We think it's a little stagnant. We evaluate our hiring process, and one part of that is enhance the recruitment process. Those two kind of work together, and that's kind of falling under the Office of Professional Standards. We reevaluate our hiring process. We enhance our recruiting. We are going to get a larger pool of minority applicants, qualified minority applicants. We just need to do some things as far as better recruitment. And like I said, I think our hiring process is a little stagnant, so we've looked at some other agencies, and we'll be making those changes this year. And that is it.
Thank you. General or specific questions then? Let's see, Alderwoman Schmidt, and then Fruin, Black. Okay, all right. So then we'll
Whole left side.
we're going to
It's
about a minute
all
or
the
two a pop here.
troublemakers
So
over
okay,
here.
Schmidt.
I
Okay.
just have a quick question. If you could go back to the indoor range. My memory is the last time we left off on that it was in pretty rough shape, needed quite a bit of money to rehab it, and then I also remember in our safety committee, I think it was the Leroy Gun Club maybe, who had reached out to us saying that they were interested in collaborating, and Alderman Sage probably remembers some of the details better than I do, but just wondered where we were in terms of, is it as bad as we maybe thought it was, and what are we doing with it? And then, are you aware of the Leroy Gun Club interest?
Yes, I'll let Assistant Chief Wheeler comment on that because he's been intimately involved in that.
I would say every time it rains or snows, it gets worse. That's what kind of pushed us to try to get a roof on it. And actually, during the time period where we were doing the study and everything else, is the indoor range deteriorated to a level that we went ahead and kept personnel out of it until we do get the roof repaired. As far as discussions with the Leroy Gun Club, what they're interested in doing is possibly purchasing a section of the land out there. They're not really interested in trying to tackle or collaborate with our actual range and trying to work out things on that. They're interested now in maybe just trying to purchase part of the property. So I've got an appointment with them to kind of walk out there and kind of us talk about what their desires or needs would be in a couple of weeks if it ever stops snowing or melts. So far that hasn't happened. And
Okay,
does that
thank
cover
you.
All of it, or was there another question?
It did,
Okay.
and I failed to just say thank you for the outstanding job all of you do in the police department. It's thumbs up.
Thank you. In regards to the range also, we're open to different ideas, but we have to fix our own house first. We have to get that straight first before we start entertaining doing other things. But we are definitely open to that.
Alderman Black? I'll just go ahead and go in order, Black, Fazzini, and Fruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Chief, for putting this together. It's an ambitious 2014 you got laid out here, and I think that you're the man to lead us down these priorities. I just want to highlight a few things, though. Number one would be and City Manager Hales pointed it out too, the communication aspect, continuing that partnership with the public. That's something that I definitely want to see more of and be involved with, because I think that there's a lot of things that the citizens who live out there see on a daily basis. They can, point out who's the problem and really coordinate. I know there's been a lot of that done in the past, but continuing that partnership and watching that grow. The other one, too, that I wanted to point out was a social media network that you're doing to get the information out there. I think that's fantastic, but I continue to read it in the paper. It seems almost every day. You see a criminal who posts a picture of their stolen goods of themselves online. How much are we doing to investigate some of that?
A lot. That's how we have actually, when we have even, correct me if I'm wrong, went to court and other things, we proved people are gang members.
Because they're throwing selfies up on...
Absolutely. It helps us identify people. They're not the smartest.
I was going to say that could be the crooks are stupid video.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yes, we will continue to expand our use of that, and Officer Mayer is doing an excellent job with that. She's very proactive. And as far as the communicating, what I've been telling people, too, when they come talk to us, don't just come to complain, at least come with some solutions also. But I know communication bridges gaps and helps with trust. And when they trust us to come do our job and they can let us know when illegal activity is going on, we can keep people out the fray, okay? And we can do our job, and everybody can be much safer.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for this, and I think data is king, and we're starting to see some progress, and I appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you.
Alderman Fazzini.
Yeah, Chief, in the last year or so, we continue to see policemen sworn in, and when they are, we get a little bit of background information on them. And I've noticed, I've been actually pleasantly surprised, they either have college degrees, military experience, or other police department experience before we even bring them in. I'd like to see, out of the 100-plus police officers that we have, how many have college, how many have military background, and how many have previous police experience. I think our citizens would be surprised how qualified the people we have are. I noticed you put up evaluate hiring and enhance recruitment, and I'm sitting here saying, well, I think you've been doing a pretty darn good job already, but if you want to make it even better, great. But let's take credit for what we've got.
Yeah, there are some goals we have, and because we have people with a lot of education, we have a test. We're not sure if we're going to keep testing in the same way as far as a written test.
Location to location, location. So with that said, my mind also goes to where we started out with Most Wanted, America's Most Wanted, and we go to Crime Stoppers, and then we get into Twitter and social media and things like that. But I guess my theme here is a couple things. The more we can get the public involved in ratting out, what they know, the better off we'll be. And then to echo David's comment a couple different times, is this shared cost, and I don't know who's footing the bill for some of these things, but it seems like a lot of work is being done, maybe I don't know if I'm right or wrong, by the city of Bloomington that benefits the region, and I don't know how you share that cost, but it seems like much of the study and evaluation is being done on a regional basis. So to the extent that we can get others to help us pay for a dedicated, focused effort, and we see that in the fire department with our hazmat or something like that. One department handles it for the region. So any comments about public interest, public involvement, and shared cost?
Well, absolutely, we need the public. As I alluded to earlier, when we get more input from the public. One thing I will tell you as far as people, and like you say, Riley and Todd and everything, a lot of people who are causing the problems there sometimes, they don't live there. They're visiting people. So they're kind of transient. They're going to different places. So we have to make the people who actually own the apartment or whatever more responsible, because that happens a lot too. And when we have the cases, and I know people, you know, sometimes it takes patience, but one thing we don't want to do is hit somebody on Todd Drive too fast, absent a safety issue for the neighborhood. So then they just move to Riley and start doing the same thing. We'd rather their move be to DOC. That's where we would like them to go to jail. But definitely, it takes a concerted effort. Now, I will be honest with you, just like anything else, as far as some of the work we do, when people are getting things for free, they kind of cringe a little bit when you ask them to pitch in. But we have been discussing that, especially with the cyber crimes and some other things. When you've been getting it for free for a while, you get used to that, and then, and I'm not saying we have asked that, but we are definitely looking at that. But that will be one hurdle that we do have, because we want to help everybody, when we can. But some departments, there are some that can, but some they can barely, I think one of the small departments around here just got laptops in their squad cars. But we are definitely looking at all of this, but we just want to serve the community as best we can, and we will exhaust all avenues to do that. Were you done?
Well, last, but we have run out of time, so we have Alderman Milwaukee, last but not least.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just take just a couple seconds, but I just wanted to congratulate you on a successful maybe first 6 months, right?
That's because of people like Assistant Chief Wheeler and these other people
Right.
who've been
Right.
buying into what we've been doing.
Right. And that's actually where I was going, because I see that you have a pretty ambitious agenda, but I think you can't make a difference if you're not ambitious. And I see that you're trying to do some things that are different, that it doesn't seem like we've done before. Increase social media network use, evaluating the hiring process, and enhancing recruitment, and trying to give more opportunities to minorities to be part of the process as well. And I think I can sense that there's good team spirit. And I think that's fantastic to see that all of you are together on this. And it takes, one, your leadership, but also it takes the support and cooperation of people who are working under you. So congratulations. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I would like to say one thing, though.
Okay, we're wrapping it up. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Alderman, you can finish, but then I
If you read the paper today in regards to Chicago, or yesterday, in regards to their gang enforcement and how they've had lower crime, and you see some of the strategies they employed in regards to identifying gang members, finding out who doesn't like who, where they are, and these other things, that's old news here, because these people have been doing that. I knew that even when I worked with the state, so I read that, and, they're kind of behind. So just to let you all know,
we are definitely blessed. That's
our
for sure.
intelligence unit is on it.
Alderman Lauer.
Just
So
real quick, just want to reiterate, thanks for all the help that you've helped me with, and just to thank you very much for your leadership. I also, and many of the other aldermen as well, answer to a number of retired police officers that are very concerned and still have their eyes on the street, and I hear about it. So one of the things that they mention, and it's one of the things that I've talked about with many of the departments in Bloomington, I would really like to see better communication, and I think probably your department does it better than most, but better communication with the folks that actually have the boots on the ground and are doing the job every day. And I think that goes from the guy that's taking care of our parks and our solid waste right on up to you guys. So I think if we're all communicating up and down that hierarchy, we're probably doing the best job we can. And very, very long history of pride in your department, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
again, thank you. I'm sure Alderman Lauer speaks for all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you, our Assistant Chief. Thanks. And moving right along, we move to our city manager's discussion. Mr. Hales?
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just kind of follow up with a few other causes, because I hope here in this upcoming year we can have more opportunities. When you look at how much we allocate in the budget for public safety, police, and fire, that's about 40% of our total general fund. Unfortunately, sometimes we have very limited time to really get into some of these critical issues as they've mentioned tonight. The one thing I want to applaud both the chief and the assistants and all the members of the police department is, as I've been here 5 years, I'm seeing constant moving from being reactive to proactive. And just some of the statistics we saw, like DUI. There was a time when those were really low in other things, but I think this issue of communication up and down the ranks, being more proactive, being more creative and innovative, looking for ways we can hopefully continue to make progress. I think that's what I see in the leadership of the police department. So I have great respect. Also, I just want to point out that tonight what you've seen is a lot of statistics and data for Bloomington. In the future, dealing with performance management, we'll be bringing more comparative data because I think, as someone pointed out, we always want to look at how do we compare with the town of Normal, with other communities here in Illinois and nationwide. And the performance management program under ICMA is giving us some of those opportunities, and we'll continue to look at how we can not only compare and look at ourselves, which is paramount and critical, but also what else could we use to show, because by doing that, we can also continue to look at best practices of other police departments as well as what they are doing to try to prevent crime, which we didn't spend a lot of time. We're looking at the crime as it's happening and the prosecution, the arrest, but one of our missions of the police department is also to try and prevent that crime. So we'll have more. And then last on the range, I just wanted to point out we will be bringing to you very significant expenditure of funds to repair many of the facilities out at the range, which are critical and need to happen, on an immediate or short-term basis. However, Alderwoman Schmidt, as you mentioned, there has been reports on the range, and I think at some point in time we still would like to see the full council adopt a policy position long-term, because the range is one of those facilities where the city owns. We're the ones that absorb the high cost of maintaining the facility. You recently adopted some agreements, with the other entities, but that cost sharing is a very, very low comparison to the real cost of maintaining that facility long-term. And of course, we're also talking to, we've recently seen where there's a private entity looking at putting in some private facilities on the west side. And so I think all those are still open, but I think we got to continue to focus on, if we're providing a regional benefit, we need to look at ways to collaborate on a financial sharing process. And there's many other examples, but I'm just very pleased with this report, and we look for more opportunities to come to you in the future to share, again, the great job that our police department is doing to not only prevent, but to address crime and make those apprehensions. And there's more that we'll be reporting on during this upcoming years. So thank you.
Thank you. What I'd like to do start is to thank Mark Huber for nearly 30 years of service with our community, and a week from Thursday, and that's February 20th, I believe. Is it from 3 to 5 we're going to be gathering? 2 to 4. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, glad somebody's here to keep me honest. That's tough. Okay, from 2 to 4, and that's in the Government Center, correct? Oh, I'm sorry. Second floor Government Center, and I certainly, we want to congratulate you, and we'll be there for the refreshments a week from Thursday. But thank you, Mark. The only actual substantive thing I want to talk about is, of course, the process for filling our council seat with the resignation of Alderwoman McDade. And I've consulted pretty widely. Of course, talked to our attorneys. There's not much statutory or language in the ordinance. And I did talk with everyone on the council indirectly, 8 of our 9 I managed to talk to directly about this. I talked to several of our other mayors that I met, talked to our mayor to the north, Chris Coos. I talked to former Mayor Steve Stockton. And of course, there's there's no best practice. The most common practice is one I don't think we want to follow, and that is where the mayor just says, here. Okay, so I think we want to make sure that we have some procedures in place as we move forward. I've also, in terms of people that I've spoken with, and many people from the community, as of Friday morning, I began to get text messages, phone calls, emails, and people accosting me, lobbying for one or more candidates. And of course, there are a lot of different perspectives. Some people have said that the person should be very similar to the person who left. Others have said they should look like the constituency, demographically, ideologically. Some have said that if someone has previously run for the office, they should be given special leg up. Others say no, if they didn't win, they shouldn't be considered at all. And so I've got lots of contradictory advice, but of course my job as mayor is to take all of that information and to try to balance those perspectives. And then broadly, we know that vacancies in legislatures throughout the world are pretty much filled in one of two ways, and that is either by some sort of executive-based appointment, and it could be with advice and consent of a legislative body, or not. U.S. senators don't, basically the governor just fills them in. Obviously, we have a governor who's in jail because he wanted to try to sell that. And the other is by a special election. And this one actually is a combination of the two, because there are 3 years and 3 months almost left of Jennifer McDade's term. And according to statute, whoever is appointed, so there's an executive appointment with advice and consent of the council, that person has to serve, they serve, but they have to get reelected if they so desire in the upcoming election cycle. So in a few months, they're going to have to start circulating petitions. So that kind of clarifies the situation. I did take a little closer look, of course, as a political scientist, at Ward 5. It is remarkably close to a microcosm of the overall city of Bloomington, and perhaps more so. I didn't check everyone's ward, but I'm guessing it's pretty close to the average, closer than probably others, although it is a little less affluent, even though it's mainly an east side ward. It includes a few affluent areas, but it includes some not very affluent areas on the east side and some older neighborhoods that are west of Veterans Parkway. And actually, it's also a little more diverse, slightly higher percentages of people of color than throughout the city. It's also a little less conservative than the city of Bloomington. What do I mean by that? Well, specifically, a good barometer of presidential election votes. Bloomington is, of course, people may not realize this, a purple city. We went in 2008 for the Democratic candidate Obama by 7 points, and we went to Romney by 2. And I think that's pretty close to a purple place as you can get. This particular ward has been a little more consistently for Obama in 2008, and in 2012 it did. But to give you an idea about how diverse it is, Obama won it by 5 votes. Okay. Anytime I see, having been the south side of 15 votes, it makes me cringe to see really close elections like that. But anyway, so it's certainly a fairly diverse perspective, a series of perspectives that are coming from there. And certainly whoever is chosen is going to be somebody who needs to balance a lot of diverse perspectives and be open to those perspectives. So, and obviously they're going to have to be someone who's going to face the voters very soon. So considering all that, I have the following process. In light of the fact that we are in a budget cycle and we need whoever is chosen to be, I think, on board as soon as possible to begin to get up to speed on a budget that will affect the Ward 5 as well as the entire city. So I propose the following. We will accept applications, and applications aren't required, but I think it's a good precedent to continue to set. We have received some applications, and I know that some are coming. And I'm going to close those off as of Friday at 4 o'clock. That is this Friday, Valentine's Day, the 14th at 4 o'clock. So whatever kinds of materials, some people want to submit, I'm sure that they've discussed it with me, a letter of application and a resume. One person filled out a form for boards and commissions and put Ward 5 council person. So whatever materials they are already on file, the media can have access to them. They should be public record. They are available to aldermen and women as they come in. They've been out since this afternoon, the materials that we currently have. And so I would ask that anybody who's interested and I'll mention this on WJBC tomorrow, WGLT, and Cities 92.9 to try to make sure we get the word out. If someone is interested, they need to apply by Friday at 4 o'clock. I have already begun to schedule appointments to interview and meet the candidates. As they come in, I will schedule them immediately. And so I'm going to be doing that over about the next week or so, and I would ask the council to basically by a week from Wednesday, the evening of the 19th, to submit whatever feedback that the council has, advantages, disadvantages, strengths, and weaknesses of each of the candidates. And the reason for that is so that by Thursday morning when we put the packet together, I can submit a recommendation to the council. If that person is approved on the 24th, they would be sworn in as the first order of business, and they'd be seated and they could get to work. So again, that's the process that I'm attempting to pursue, again, based on talking widely, trying to come up with some different balance all the different competing concerns and perspectives and the need, frankly, in the budget to get someone on board. We're going to begin to talk about the budget in earnest on the 24th, and it would be good to have someone filling that chair on that point. So that's all I had for this evening, so I'd like to turn this over to Alderman's discussion. Any comments on anything? Start with Alderman Stearns and then Black.
Thank you, Mayor. I had several questions for the chief, and I appreciate his report. I am going to submit them by email in the interest of time. And I wanted to ask you a question now that you've told us the process. You're asking for council's feedback on the candidates. Is that correct?
Yes. Any feedback. The materials are, as we get them, they're available. What we have is available currently in the council chambers, just where there are, the place where there are all the board and commission materials that people have.
And my question, will those comments that council makes, recommendations, et cetera, be available publicly? Will those be?
Certainly if they are,
Can they be FOIA'd?
if somebody, they can be FOIA'd, especially if somebody sends me an email. Right, right.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
Sometimes people prefer to talk to me one-on-one, and that's okay. But if you want to send me an email, then they are obviously subject to FOIA.
Okay, but if we just drop something off, what about that? If somebody just drops off or typed, not sure, maybe you can get back to me.
I would need to ask our legal counsel. I mean, I'm assuming that would be subject. Anything that we use in our, we don't have,
well,
if we can come forward, sorry. I would assume that anything that was used in our decision-making would be subject to a FOIA.
Well, it's a very important decision, and I know, I think last time we all submitted almost like a vote, and nobody knew kind of, what anybody else's was, and it was really very awkward, and I think it would be really good
I don't want
if we didn't do that again.
Right. Yes.
If it's a record document in the possession of the city, provided no exemption applies, FOIA, then it would be releasable.
Okay. Thank you very much. And one last thing, since that I want to say publicly so we don't get into an email discussion about it, is something I emailed you about earlier. You and I talked about it, and I appreciate your basic support that one of the great Bloomington sort of institutions and things that I certainly grew up with, and many of us did, was Quinn's Texaco and later Quinn's Shell. So I think it would be really nice, and I would like to recommend that we have a proclamation or something for Elmo Quinn, maybe even on Elmo Quinn Day. I'd just like to recommend that, and I'd be happy to.
Totally agree, and I'm assuming that we were probably unanimous on that, and we'll try to have that for our next meeting.
I'll be talking with you about that, and also with him, because I grew up with both him and his wife. And
thank you for bringing that to our attention, Alderman Stearns. Thank you. Alderman Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to bring up 2 points this evening. Number one being, as we talk about, as we get these application materials for whatever they may be, are we going to be posting those to the website as we receive them for public view, or is that going to come just to the alderman?
At this point, we hadn't talked about scanning them. I don't know how difficult that would be. I assume we could do that. The materials, as long as they're not terribly extensive. I did give some to the media this evening. Rachel Wells. I gave the applications from the first candidate, and I know that there are several others coming. So I don't. How difficult would that be for us to make sure that we scan those materials and put them on the web?
I think it's just important for you to make sure anyone who wants to apply that the materials they are going to submit will be scanned and put out on the website. So I think that comes back to your direction, to those
Well, I
submitting
think that makes perfect
materials.
sense. I mean, again, legally, constitutionally, the moment somebody puts themselves into the public realm, then absolutely, I mean, obviously the council will want to take a look at those, but if anyone else wants to take a look at those materials, then that certainly seems to be fair game. So we'll, thank you for that suggestion. We'll move toward that tomorrow.
Thank you. And number two is I wanted to put a suggestion out there. We've talked a lot about social media and reaching out to the public in a more effective way, and one of the things that I'm not sure many people are aware of is that the city does post these meetings up on YouTube, and you can watch it later. There's also live stream, but one of the challenges with those YouTube videos is that they come out as exactly long as these meetings are. So in this case, we are almost at about 2 hours. So if you're looking for a specific agenda topic, it's very challenging to find that amongst the 2-hour time frame. So I'd like to suggest that at some point in the very near future, we begin to put those videos online based on agenda item. So if someone's interested in just learning about the chief's report, they can go right to the chief's report. If they're focused on the consent agenda, maybe a topic that's on there, they can watch just that as opposed to trying to click and find specifically what topic item is coming forward. One other thing that I'd suggest too, is I don't know if it's possible, maybe Scott can enlighten us at some point. On these TVs here, I know that when we don't have a PowerPoint presentation, I've heard some feedback that sometimes people can't see us or hear us or see who's speaking. I wonder if we can get the live stream to come up on these TVs, because they do go to the council member or the mayor or the speaker who is talking to kind of help people see what's going on and the action that's taking place. So that's just some suggestions I'd like to see happen to help engage public input.
Okay, well, actually, I think, Scott, are you coming up to talk to us, or we can do this resolve it at a later point, but if you got something to add quickly.
Real quickly, the challenge in that, Alderman, is that the stream is usually a number of seconds behind what's going on in the room. I mean, often as much as 30 seconds or so. So
That's fair.
There's a challenge with that, but we'll look into it for sure.
Thank you.
I didn't find it too difficult, just to say the only time that I have actually ever watched us was somebody had made a comment about the state of the city, so I actually went, and it wasn't that hard to find it. That's the only time I've ever gone back to watch us, which maybe I should do that more often.
Yes, and your other suggestion, we have been looking into that for quite some time, and we'll be bringing a request or recommendation for that, the indexing of the video.
Absolutely, because I had sometimes people will email me about topics that we've discussed, and I'll just send them the YouTube video with where it starts. So I'm kind of keeping track of it, but it'd be easier if they can, everyone gets access to that information.
Absolutely. Great, thank you. Seeing no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Alderwoman Stearns, second by Alderman Schmidt. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Finally, thank you. Gosh, yeah, no kidding.